and can set up a training program on a VR and take that into the field with them. You can get haptics and gloves, and you're going to take anybody that can be visual, and the AI can know. I mean, I've had a plumber out to my house a couple months ago. I mean, I could take an AI with my phone and probably do what he did. I mean, it's not that far off, and they make a lot of money right now. So the opportunity is going to be to replace them with somebody with a high school education for 100 grand. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a good shout out. I mean, I'm able to do a lot of home improvement type of stuff through AI. I mean, I replaced my hot water heater. And I just like I was literally had the video chat thing open, right? And like walking through the whole thing was nuts. It's just telling me in my headphones that I set up on a tripod and I in my headphones, it's like, okay, continue doing the thing. It's very interesting. Cool, guys. So, all right, looks like I have a lot more people joining now. So, sorry for the link not working. You think, man, after doing these kinds of calls for the better part of a decade, I'd figure out the links by now, but it's still not. You know what we're going to do? We're going to set up our AI agent team to do the link sharing, creation and sharing for me instead because it's Andrew who's screwing it up. Not I wish I could blame the bots, but it's purely an Andrew issue. So sorry, I apologize for that, but I'm glad you guys all made it here. So this call today, um, I just like bringing, like I said, I just like bringing smart people together. I find that when we put a bunch of smart people in the same room with with a kind of a common interest and a common topic, we can learn a lot. So and today's theme, I guess, is kind of going from beyond the bot, beyond the single agent, right? We've been talking about open claw agents and a single bot that does stuff for us. And today I thought we could start abstracting out further and talk about what it would look like to have a bot team, an AI team. So, um, yeah, I'd like to open it up. Who's installed some type of team infrastructure? Deepa?
Mhm.
Yeah. Rob? Christian?
Yeah. Done paperclip and OpenClaw back in the day.
Awesome. Great. And what are you how are you liking it so far, Brian?
Both went rogue on me. So
Really?
there's some boundaries you need to make sure you set.
What can you explain a little bit what happened? Like
Well,
what were we
so with
trying to do
OpenClaw,
and
now granted,
where did
this
it run
was
away?
back when OpenClaw was, came out the first couple of weeks, of course. And this is not meant to be a horror story, just more of a reminder that you've got to put in some kind of boundaries and controls in there and have visibility of what, where it goes off the rails. With OpenClaw, that was primarily um, I gave it access to, I just wanted to summarize my WhatsApp groups. And so I gave it specific access to two of my WhatsApp groups and asked to summarize and then give back to me basically a summary of what the conversations were for the day. A couple days later, as I go back and look through the logs, it figured out it's like, oh, I'm being blocked from these other groups. Let me figure out a way around it. Figured out a way around it and started posting as me and responding to comments on in me in completely other WhatsApp groups. Shut that one off
I,
real
I, I,
fast.
I saw some of those comments like, that's not
Yeah, I
the
think
way
Christian,
Brian
you,
normally
you called
chats.
me. I was like, you sure about this?
I remember that. Yeah.
So that was, obviously that was a while back, and then with Paperclip, it was great concept, but you really have to know where the numbers are. You got to know where things like the dollar budgets don't really apply, but there's like cost screens, and you've got to pay attention to what each of the agents are burning through costs. Because I went through, gosh, what was it? Claude credits. I went through 270 million credits in a day, just because I had a whole team that was just operating at full power, and it said, "Okay, sorry, can't do anything else."
Was the output useful or interesting? Or
No,
were they
because
just
it even
playing with it?
screwed up the output, so I had to redo it. So yeah, it said like oh, I couldn't access that, so I just used something else, which is a common theme that I'm seeing with the agents is that it just works around the problem, whether it's the right one or not.
For reference, what's the estimated cost of that amount of tokens?
$100 maybe, 200
Okay.
bucks probably. I mean, as far as like what it was processing, because it wasn't just Claude, it was also through um, the voice transcription. 11 Labs also did the same thing. Burned through a whole month of credits in a day.
And were you using the OAuth sign-in, or were you using the API?
Probably I was using the APIs.
API. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
But I
It's
just didn't realize that like there were certain roles that I had assigned. You make certain naive assumptions that the CEO in Paperclip, for instance, is going to oversee, or the project manager is going to oversee the resource utilization, and they don't. They just say go, 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 and they're constantly saying, "Yep, I can do that," and they go out and you get this one, you get one or two roles that you tell them it's like, yeah, fine, study, competitive videos and figure out what it is that they're doing, that seems to be working, and they'll go out and say, cool, I studied 10,000 videos today, and you're like, oh crap. So you got to make sure you set boundaries and some checks and balances is all I'm saying. For any of these, set your checks and balances and scale slowly so that you understand what the cost, what the burn rate is that's occurring, so that you actually have control.
So one good example of a boundary or a limit that we could put in is I just every single API that I have spend caps on them, right? And so that's like a pretty I just everywhere I try to put a spend cap on everything, right? But that let's say that is kind of like base level, right?
Mhm.
What are other kind of limits do you suggest, Brian?
Well, I mean, there's some other things like with Paperclip, it was a local install, and so I just used Claude Code in order to add on to bolt on my own tools, my own views. Cost was not one of them. I thought I was being clever about what I was adding on, and I added on like a dependencies screen so that I could see where all of the tasks that were being assigned, if they're blocked by a single task, in other words, there's dependencies from one task to another, I can go into this one screen and I can just see the tree as far as like, okay, what's the blocking task on this that's holding back all these others? Because otherwise, you'll get 30 emails from the system saying like, "Hey, I can't do my job," and you're right, and then you have to manually go through and trace back. Okay, where's the problem? So I just created a dependencies screen that referenced all of the tasks are I think they call them issues, but all the tasks they'll mention if they get blocked, they say like, "Hey, I'm waiting on, task number X and X number and task number Y," and you can chain those all together into your own. It was pretty easy for Claude Code to put that page together.
That's funny. That's literally how it works in a real business too, right? When
As
you
checks and
sometimes you
balances and not being naive. Yeah, all those things.
because sometimes you find, like why wasn't this project delivered or this output created? And it's like, well, because he was waiting on her, she was waiting on him, and he was confused exactly. He didn't know all that, that he was the linchpin in the whole pipeline. So maybe the agents are doing the same thing the humans are
Well, and
doing.
yeah, not to rabbit hole about what, is my experience, because it's just, a learning exercise, and I'm sure there's people in the room is like I wouldn't make that same mistake. Cool, I did. So I'm just hoping that somebody else doesn't. And that is what I should have probably done is, I might have like say a QA agent that goes through and checks everybody's work, right? Not only are they burning credits to check the work, but if they don't have specific enough outcome parameters
Do you
to
have a
say
second to
this.
get me?
Force muting anybody. So
Thank
sorry,
you.
go ahead, Brian.
Yep. First time on Zoom. The like to have specific instructions in order to say like, hey, here's the outcome that I need. Don't continue with this until it actually um passes quality control. And also the quality control needs to have some kind of checks and balance with in Paperclip they call that the board, which is basically is the human. And so there's got to be some approval stages where you say continue now that I'm satisfied that the quality control is working, so that you can constantly adapt the quality. It's the same thing as prompting, really, because with prompting, it's like, oh, that's not what I expected. That's not what I meant at all. Well, imagine doing that with a team that's got free reign to just blow through credits and splinter off and hire and do all kinds of things that can get out of control real fast at lightning speed. So yeah, just try to build in some more keep the human approvals in the loop. Right now, it's primarily for hiring, and it probably, at least initially, the first month or so, there should be a lot more approval checks and balances on what the team is working on before they continue.
I love it. And just to throw something out there, I mean, I think you just think how incredibly valuable that $100 is that you just spent, that hundred and whatever it was, $100, $200, like
Yeah.
learning that how to manage these new AI teams. Like, man, you just got like one course from your from your AI MBA, right? So I think it's well worth that $200, and certainly well worth it for all of us because we get it for $0. So thank you.
Well, and that's just it. I freaked out initially because I went back and I finally saw where it was going on, and originally I thought it's like, oh no, somehow one of my keys got out in the public. I've heard of those stories, right? And then I realized, no, 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 it was my own doing on my own laptop. You know, it just I wouldn't say it goes rogue. It's like if you give it all the room in the world to adapt and to produce on its own, it's going to do it 10,000 times faster than any of us would. The nice thing about being human is we can think slow enough and act slow enough that we catch our mistakes before it becomes something big. It's more expensive, but yeah. But it also kind of tells you, where your resource management. Like I wish there was more resource management. You can go in and you can see what are the costs, for instance, like how many credits that they're burning through. But it would be nice to have something like a bubble chart that said like, here's this one agent that has just got a massive bubble. It's like, whoa, what's going on there? That kind of visibility is probably something I'll build in next, just so that I can see what that is. I also have it so that the CEO emails me every day and tells me, hey, here's all the things we're stopped on. So that I can go in and say like, hey, we're waiting on board action before we can continue on this. And it emails me every day and saying, here's the open issues we're stuck on.
Interesting. I
Yeah.
love it.
So adapt it to what your needs are. Um, I think Andrew, you said you were actually building your own system. Is that right?
Oh, I'm building a bunch of tools, not an AI
Oh,
team.
I see. I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Love it. AJ, I saw you post a little thing here in the chat, but I want to hear your input.
Yeah, so I agree with that. My AI team says I have a zero trust culture. So I kind of do budgets from the opposite way rather than letting the team go full bore on what it wants. I always ask it what will be the cost of this, and then I update my open router budget because each one of my agents or sub agents has its own API key that I can set a max budget to inside open router. So if it goes up to or above that, it just shuts down the API. That way, if anything goes rogue or off the rails, it just gets shut down rather than running up my bill.
That's the smart way to approach it because I
That's
had my keys pooled for the team.
that's really smart. That, that's my biggest takeaway, AJ. That's great.
And
What
then,
is
like you said, I dropped a prompt in the chat, and that's just something I try and do every Monday or whenever I've been away for a while. I'll throw that into OpenClaw, and it'll just output all the tasks we're working on, where they're stalled, if they're stalled, why they're stalled, and what I need to do to get it going again. So, and it seems to work pretty well.
I
Do you
love
do
it.
that manually, okay, or you have that scheduled to like run every Monday or something?
I try and do it Monday. It's just a manual one I have saved in my Grammarly doc. I have a giant Grammarly doc with all these prompts I commonly use to survey or query different aspects of my team.
Love it. Great share, AJ. Um, I just saved that prompt in a chat in a doc here, and for anybody watching the recording, I'll make sure that this gets it's accessible. Deepa, go ahead.
Um, I I know there are so many smart people here, so please, I beg your uh whatever if this question feels silly. By the way, it was so great to see you this weekend. I'm kind of hungover. It was like so much knowledge and stuff. Um, but it was really awesome. Anyone else who was there. Uh, I so it was such an advantage to have this going before I went there because I was putting in screenshots and stuff like that real time into the OpenClaw bot. But I have a question because I'm just about to launch into a crisis at my primary business because I'm a very small team. And I have Claude Code on my desktop, not my desktop, I have it on my laptop and I have OpenClaw on Telegram, which can be on any of my computers so I can communicate to it easily on my phone or my desktop or whatever. Is there an advantage of putting a Mac Mini in my office, like buying one, and what could I, it'll help kind of frame everything that we're kind of doing, like because I don't have Claude Code at the office unless I take this whole other laptop up. Is that just for the same Claude Code that I have? Because I saw some photograph where there were like 16 minis stacked on top of each other. So I didn't understand quite like were they each a person or
I think a lot of those pictures are they're a little bit of a kind of Twitter X
okay.
silly. I don't know if it's silly, but they're attention grabbing. They're attention grabbing pictures. I'm sure there's lots of people who actually do that. But in general, I don't unless you're doing some type of mega tech AI tech thing for megacorps or whatever. Like I can't imagine any regular Amazon seller or even a small business outside of the Amazon space would need like 16 Mac Minis running.
How about one? Or is there a use for one outside of what I already have?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, I'll open it up. I think Christian, I saw you kind of smiling, reacting to that a little bit, Christian, or anyone else want to
I
kind
mean,
of give their take on whether
it,
it's
it depends on what you're using it for. If what do you currently use it? You said you have
So I
Claude Code
have
running on your laptop.
every time I hear any of you guys talk or all of this stuff, I have two minds, right? One is the Amazon e-commerce business, like 8 months old, with single product ASIN, with Colette, who's on this call, and then my other life for the last 30 plus years. I'm a physician, left, and I own a medical spa, and I'm like a one person show, so like I have a key man problem. So one thing I learned this weekend was that if I could AI a lot of things, I could make my business stand out for an exit, whereas other people who were doing things the traditional way and scaling whatever um, haven't done or unlikely that they've done. So, doing all of the things that we heard about this weekend. I don't know if you were there, Christian, this weekend, but
No, I wasn't. I mean, having a dedicated place to store and run your things makes sense, but whether that is an old laptop, a Mac Mini, something in the cloud, that's kind of up to you and what you're comfortable with. I mean, we just use cloud resources. We don't have in-house Mac Minis. So we just spin up new servers in the cloud when we need them and put things in the cloud. But it just depends on what you're comfortable with and what you're happy doing. But if a laptop works for you, then use the laptop. I don't know whether a Mac Mini does much. I mean, the real benefit of using something like a Mac Mini is if you're set up a local LLM on the Mac Mini to do simple tasks, and then you don't have to use tokens. You're just running local LLMs, but most people don't bother doing that. So it's not. I don't personally see the benefit of using Mac Minis much, but some people are very happy with it and very comfortable.
the benefit. I completely agree with Christian. I saw AJ also give a thumbs up to that. The benefit, I think for you, Deepa, would be that there is a UI that you can just like log into a computer and you can just have a keyboard and a mouse and an actual computer, and you push the button to turn it on like a regular computer. Whereas if you're not comfortable, spinning up virtual servers and like logging in to them like that, there's a little bit of a technical challenge there. And for $1,000, $1,500, you could have your own machine there if you just feel more comfortable doing that. But to spin up a server, right, or a VPS, relatively simple, and it's only $8 a month instead of $1,500 one-time fee. And for me also, I also think that, also that the flexibility of having that too is going to be huge. And I I already found like, okay, let me just get the $6 package on Hostinger. And then and I started playing with it, I'm like, okay, well, this works. Like, I'm just going to upgrade to the $18 package because I like it. And it's like, I'm gonna try seeing what happens if I install multiple OpenClaw bots together on one server. Does that work? That was pretty easy because I was able to just like, like infinite, just very quickly in a matter of minutes add more memory. Whereas you wouldn't necessarily be able to do that with the hardware. I guess you just buy another $1,500 computer, right? So I like the virtual stuff, but uh, do you have any input, Rob? I think you went the Mac Mini route, right? Rob Green.
I hate the we all have different opinions. I hate the virtual route, especially for somebody who's not technical. I just think it throws another wrinkle in the problem. And I've got my Mac Mini running in a different room with everything set up. In the beginning, I feel like there's a lot of choppiness and challenges, right? Setting up OpenClaw, little things like you got
Are
to
you
teach
getting
them.
ready to go, Matt?
So no, I'm not ready to go yet, but thank you for asking. So you can go ahead and just go touch the computer and get in there and fix it in the beginning. And I think for someone that's not technical, if you have a deep technical understanding, it's super easy to set up a remote, right? But for someone who's not, the Mac Mini feels like a really good way for most people just to get familiar and level up a little bit. And then if you want to run, at least I spend a lot of money on DigitalOcean. I mean, it's easier to spend money and go do things on virtual, but my take is for most people, it's safer and it's easier to fix when stuff goes wrong in the beginning, which it will go wrong in the beginning. But to each their own, whatever, both work is the answer.
Yeah,
You
I tried using
sorry,
an old
sorry, Andrew.
laptop. I was like, oh, I'll just use my old laptop, but my old laptop only has 4 gigs of RAM, and I'm like, my $7 little server has double that, So yeah, but you can try an old laptop too.
Has to be 8 gigs of RAM. And if you're a Mac user, it needs to be Apple Silicon. I would recommend that's your bare minimum. You've got KV cache overhead. You're gonna eat up. Mac OS is gonna use 1 to 2 gigs by itself just running it. So 8 is the bare minimum, I would say, to run anything halfway decent.
I tried I installed a Zero Claw, which is intentionally built to be a low memory usage bot, and it sucks. I definitely like OpenClaw a lot better, and I've yet to do the Nemo Claw. I think that's a little bit more memory intensive, but I'm eager to try that one too.
Andrew, have you not tried making your own version of OpenClaw? I did one in anti-gravity and I pointed it to the OpenClaw GitHub and said, basically, take a look at this and make me my own kind of version. Because I was going to make a dashboard, which I'd have locally, but I was going to put it up into the cloud. The dashboard connects to the cloud. And I was looking at things like Railway and stuff. So maybe it's one that's not on all the time. It's only on when I want it to do a specific task. Because my understanding of Railway is it can call out from Railway and do its stuff, but someone can't actually access it unless it's me.
Interesting. I've not done that. It but Rob, I see you unmuted.
Yeah, I got two thoughts. And one is to circle back to Brian's comment. And it's funny that we're talking about the same thing. And one, I think was that just you, Jake? I didn't see who was talking. I think it was Jake. Yeah. So I'm actually building both of those ideas right now myself. One is a better version of Paperclip. I got a team of agents working on it right now. And the second is if you think first principles, and I'd love you guys to take on this. Why do we all love OpenClaw? I only have two reasons I love OpenClaw. One, the memory is persistent over Claude Code. I'm sorry, OpenClaw instead of Claude Code. Memory is persistent, and I can have separate channels with separate context. So I posed that question to Claude Code yesterday. So I'm trying to build my own interface for Claude Code on my MacBook that runs like OpenClaw. Because I can use the full OAuth, I can use headless authorization, I can use Claude-P, and not only that, now, I don't know if you guys saw this, it was last week, Anthropic came out with channels, and they came out with a Telegram plugin. So now you can actually plug in via Anthropic, and you can also run channels, which separates your contexts or in conversations. So I'm literally going back and forth in terminal right now, building both of those things. And the first one, back to Brian's point, my brain doesn't work with Trello boards. I don't know if anyone else has this problem. Like, I struggle with the boards going left to right. Monday.com, ClickUp, that style always clicked with me better because the columns, it's built like a spreadsheet, and that's the way I'm wired. The columns do the heavy work in that type of format. So I'm trying to take Paperclip and merge that with Monday.com and have a baby right now. So that's what I'm working on. So with dependencies, like Brian talked about, when we've run Monday as a team, the dependencies are built in, the owner is clear, the subtasks are clear. So I'm just building out two of those as we speak. So I'm kind of listening and building at the same time. But I think it might be doable now to build Claude Code with a subscription and a memory the same way we use OpenClaw. That's my thought right now.
Well, I've been using Pinecone for the vector memory for my agents rather than Obsidian because I'm trying to put all of them in the cloud. I don't really want them on my local machines. And also with Paperclip, I did similar to Rob. I got Claude to have a good look at Paperclip and see what it could basically rip off from it, and I could then extract and put in my own cloud version. And it seemed quite confident it could do what I wanted it to do.
Well, and these are all open source projects. You're supposed to do this, right? So I know you maybe saying it in jest and say rip off, but the open source community wants you to do this. They're like, please use and twist and change and modify and create together. So what you're doing is exactly what the community advocates for.
You're
Which is
supposed to
great.
modify and give back to the same place. But
Well, I tell you what, they don't all. I saw someone post something recently on some AI project they're doing, which is very interesting. They were linking to the UK census data to predict voting intention, which I thought, yeah, all right, interesting, but I'm not particularly interested in politics on that side. But I thought, what if you used that to create avatars of your customers? I thought, think of it more of a commercial way. And it did analyze their code, and it came back and told me that their actual kind of algorithm, they'd put a patent on it globally. Even though it's on GitHub and open source, they had a patent. But Claude still thought if it made X amount of changes, it could still rip it off and copy it, especially if you're going to use it for commercial purposes to look for buyers. So I think their whole premise was they could replicate 1 million voters in an area and predict what the election's going to be. Personally, I'm not so confident AI could do that. But I thought we all know what our customer avatars are. And AI is not too bad at working that out. If you did tie that in with census data, even in local areas, you probably could come up with something that's quite interesting on that side.
Interesting. Yeah, patents on code has always been a weird thing. They've not been super enforceable, but it exists, but it's always kind of weird. But interesting. AJ, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to go back to the Claude Code memory issue. So I installed OpenClaw and then I got sick of managing it, so I installed a Claude Code to manage OpenClaw. And one of the first things I did is I told Claude Code to take a look at the Obsidian memory management system that OpenClaw took over and then start adding to it and utilizing it itself. And it's done an excellent job in adding persistent memory to Claude Code so that it can go in, figure out what projects are running, remember why we're doing that project, and just all the history and details that maybe a sub agent OpenClaw was working on, or maybe the main agent, or even a different session in Claude Code, which had been logged to memory before I closed out. It can pull all that up, and it works, I'd say, probably 90% when compared to OpenClaw.
Love
Has
it.
anybody tried using MemPalace to improve their memory, agent's memory?
That's on my to-do
Something I
list.
saw, something I saw last week. It's like Mila Jovovich has developed this memory solution for AI, but yeah, it's got some very good reviews and very good feedback. But I've not had a chance to look at it since I saw the video.
So just for more context for other people, there's a skill or some type of plugin or whatever
Yeah,
called Mem Palace or Memory. It's short for Memory Palace, and it's getting a lot of people are saying it's one way to solve the memory issue. I don't think we're ever gonna like solve the memory problem. I think it's just gonna be like 80%, 90%, 95, 97, 99, 99.9, never truly solve memory. Although I don't know. I mean, honestly, I could see there being like a trillion token context window. At some point it just remembers all things at all times. But there's a very strangely, there is a celebrity, like an actress who is like building that memory plugin.
She was building something herself and saw this as a problem, and then worked with a developer friend to develop. So she didn't code it herself, but
Okay.
she kind of she's the project lead and project manager, and then he's developing it. So she didn't code it, but she did come up with the concept and the foundation of it, and he coded it for her.
And she's the character from Fifth Element, right?
This
She's the
element and Resident Evil, yeah.
and she's like the act she is the fifth
Exactly.
element, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this weird thing where the number one is like such a who had that in their bingo card for 2026, right? The number one memory
Proof that we live in
management for
simulation
AI agents is a former
is the
Hollywood
fifth
star.
element.
Love it. Well, guys, I'll open it up. Anybody else playing with teams or playing with anything else they found that was pretty useful in the last week or two in this space?
So I've ran into an unusual problem. We use Cellbrite for our multi-channel fulfillment and inventory syncing, but we've had issues with this one platform we want to explore. It's a proprietary platform, and there's no tools to sync inventory, fulfillment, logistics, any of that. So I was able to get Claude Code to build out Python scripts to connect two different APIs, this platform and Cellbrite, so that we basically built our custom app that works as an integrator between these two platforms. So that was kind of fun. And it's working pretty well. I just have to debug the images and the item weight. Once those two small things are debugged, it should be ready for deployment. So
Love it. Do you have a software background, AJ, or you're just a badass?
I don't know if I say that. I just spend way too much time in front of the screen.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. Uh, uh, Rob, or Christian or Brian or anyone else, uh, anything else more to add on the AI agent team thing?
I've not had a chance to use Paperclip yet or any of the team things, but what we have found that really helps is we use Claude Code a lot, and set it using the Ralph loop, which is defining a project resource document with steps in it, and then using Claude Code to systematically go through that is an order of magnitude better. It's amazing how much better the output is when you break something bigger into a set of repeatable steps and then just get it to make sure that it's done the first step before it moves on to the next step. And if you can, we use this for software engineering things, but also we're starting to apply it to business things. And if you can define when you know the first step is complete and not move on to the second till it's done. So Brian mentioned earlier, it was reviewing videos and looked at 10,000 videos. But if you think about that as a structure a bit more and think, okay, well, let's look at 10, 100 videos and then try and work out some goal for that initial phase. And then if the findings are inconclusive, then we consider looping again and doing another 100 videos. And if not, then we can move on to the next step and do something with the output. And you just think about your you always when you're asking a process to do something, you're asking to do it for a reason. You're trying to work something out or get some outcome. And if you can gate those steps in an outcome, and then you can repeat the step until the outcome is completed or have some max loops before it gives up, then you get a lot more control, a lot more you can, and then you improve, we then improve these PRDs over time to make the process better. So you start off with something rough, you find out where it starts going off the rails and going things wrong, and then you improve those steps of the process. And that's really helped us improve things and help keep the areas on track and kind of narrow the scope into smaller steps. And that's been a big thing for us.
Yeah, I could see doing that, like say, like project milestones, where they have to check in and the whole thing comes to a halt until the next stage, next milestone is approved. Gives you a chance to take a step back and review what did I get out of this, and did it go to do what I wanted to do, or yeah, just some kind of interim catch. It's great.
And I think it's just what you talked about earlier, Brian. It's just you effectively hired a team of 10 people and then gave them a brief and then let them run with it. Yeah, and AI runs at 100 times the speed.
Yeah,
So it's like
if you suck at
leaving
managing
for a
people,
year.
then it'll reflect.
So you've got to think about how you manage at light speed. And so abstract the problem a few times and think about what you're trying to achieve and how to gate that. Where do I need to check and give feedback? And I think that's a skill we need to be developing a bit as a community to really think about. We're not just managing 2 or 3 or 20 or 30 people doing work for a day or two till we check in with them. We're managing agents that could spin up more agents and they're going to work really fast and could do a month's worth of work in the next 24 hours. So think about how to frame that and how to set things up to set them up to succeed.
I love that.
I was going to say that reminds me. I saw a video on YouTube. They're interviewing someone, and it's similar concept, but it's to do with making skills for the agents. And the guy was saying he won't download a skill from anyone. He'll only make his own. But each time he trains an agent with a skill, he basically holds its hand and goes through the process live with it. So when he sees it make a mistake, he stops it, corrects it, carries on. So he said, all right, it's a bit more labor intensive. He said, but if you ask the AI to make the skill, it'll often fuck up, and it'll go and do something unintended. I think Brian mentioned it earlier that just because you prompt something doesn't mean it's going to do what you're thinking. And I thought the concept of actually holding the agent's hand as it goes through the skill to get it absolutely spot on was actually quite a good process, especially if it's something important to do.
Yeah, it's like hiring a new employee, fresh out of high school with no experience and no experience that, hey, things go wrong, so I better kind of double check my work. They just kind of like say, hey, I just did what you told me to do, and I thought I was doing good by working around the problem. But I think you're absolutely correct, is that each agent needs some kind of onboarding and a training week if you want it to do what you expect it to do. You can't just say like, oh, the CEO is responsible. It's like, nope, it's still on you.
I've spent millions of dollars learning the difference between delegation and abdication.
Right.
And I still abdicate more than I want to, Brian.
Abdicate is very expensive.
Yeah, it's very, very expensive to abdicate. So my recommend, I'm guilty of this too. I want to start building automations and work. You got to understand the workflow. You got to understand what the workflow is first before you automate. And too often people jump into it, right? And they're like, oh, I'm just going to automate this. And then maybe it's going to work, but Probably not. It feels like it's abdicating to the agent. So I think giving more. I don't know if you guys. I don't know if you guys have talked about this or we talked about it before. Anybody use GSD or superpowers?
I use
Use superpowers
superpower.
all the time.
No, but I've seen the videos about superpowers. Someone compared superpowers to GST, and apparently superpowers came out way on top from
So
a
I'd say they're
token
different.
cost.
They're different use cases. My experience is superpowers is more skills oriented. GSD feels more like project planning. And it's like interview mode on Claude Code, but much deeper. You're going to burn a lot more tokens, which is fine if you're on a subscription, but you're going to go much deeper on GSD. We use GSD on anything that's more than like a half an hour plan. And it's going to be more than a half hour GSD. Try it up. It's a free GitHub repo. It's deep. I mean, you're going to get tired of answering questions. But for guys like me, that helps me clarify what I want. Because then you're like, oh, did you think about this? What about this? Do you want to do this? And I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't think about that. I got to go, good question. I don't know. Let's figure out the answer to that question. So I am now, I'm more of a YOLO guy, but every time I sit down and plan first, it pays off for me.
And GSD is get shit done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm dropping a link here in the chat. Oh, you already got it for me.
You too.
Christian, thanks. Interesting. I've not used GSD. I've used superpowers, and superpowers is great.
My right-hand guy uses it every single time. He's a planner and he's always using GST. And so he got me on board with it. And when I'm doing anything that's going to take a little bit of time, it's definitely worth it. It's a deeper interview plan mode.
And it's just better at like creating tasks or creating milestones for.
I find it better to help me clarify what my goals are and what I'm happy with. You know what I mean? It's like, what do I accept and what do I not accept? What's a good outcome? What's a bad outcome?
Are you doing that through like say a chat or code interface with that?
Just access it through. It's just a slash GSD plan. I think it's GSD plan. I think is the command inside of Claude Code. So once you've installed it and you're connected it, I think it's just slash GSD plan. Great. I like it. I mean, everyone's got their own preferences on it, but it's just another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, there's only 100 different variations of everything out there to choose from.
I know, dude. I know. But I think this is important though, is pick a few and use them. And honestly, now I just ask OpenClaw, Jarvis, or Claude, analyze this. Does this help me at all? Oh, this is a good one. I'll share this with you guys here. Who watches YouTube videos? Raise your hand.
No, never.
Who wants to watch more YouTube videos but doesn't have time? Okay. All right. I'm going to put this. I built a repo yesterday. So actually, you mind if I share what it looks
Does it
like?
do like a montage of like 10 different videos at once?
No, it's better.
Just 10 tiled videos.
10
You have to
tiles.
watch all the
One
Okay,
per
this is
eye.
actually a perfect example because it ran this morning at 6. So
It's going to look like this Zoom call, actually. The video is just running in parallel, you know.
look at this real quick. This is my Slack. Everybody can see my Slack?
Yeah.
So I built this yesterday, and basically what it does, it runs at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. every day. I gave it like 15 creators I like. It analyzes the video, any new content from any of those 15 providers in the last 12 hours since it ran, excluding shorts. Doesn't do shorts, long form. So look at this. GSD versus superpowers versus Claude Code. Here's a summary, key insights, link, and I added to tell me what to do. Should I watch it? Should I skim it? Or should I skip it? And so now I built this yesterday. I got like 15 videos because I had it run like the last 3 days as a test. And now every 12 hours it runs based on people I like and gives me this in a Slack channel called Intel. Hands-free, free, runs on my computer with Claude Code. I'll paste in the chat here.
I'll personalize my language models. I use a couple different ones, but I'll personalize them to make sure that it's saying like, okay, you already know what my superpowers are. If I start deviating outside of those superpowers, block me. Like, don't let me rabbit hole into something like, ooh, that's a cool idea. It's like, no. You're gonna fail on this one. Don't bother.
I built a GitHub repo, and I think you can use this. command, or this is the repo, and this is an easy one for you guys to install it. I think you just give this a Cloud Code, install it. I just call it the info diet.
See, I just came to this call to pick up all these toys.
No, but I'm constantly taking in information, and I'm tired of looking for it, and I want the stuff that's good, and then I need it to summarize, because I've been doing it like one-off here and there, and transcribing and doing all that. I just wanted it to feed me. I want it to be proactive to me, not be reactive to me. So that was the switch for me.
Rob, are you taking it to another level and post the analysis from these videos? Are you then giving it the ability to overview your project workflow and match where improvements can be, you know, the new information from these videos where it could make recommendations and improvements to your existing workflows? You know,
I haven't done
department
that
content.
yet. I haven't done that yet. Most of the stuff he's given me yesterday and today has been skim or skip. I haven't, and it's a good question, Billy. Are content creators on YouTube the closest we can get to the source of quality information? They're a repackaged version of quality information. So they're putting their own spin, their own take on it, their opinion of GSD versus superpowers versus cloud code. And I'm trying to pick people that I think are smart and I think know what they're talking about. And hopefully some of those will be good. But I'm not sure they're the closest. I think I'm just going to replicate the GitHub for X. And then I just need to score it because I think X is closer to the cutting edge quality information than YouTube. I feel like YouTube's got a little delay. If you're making a 20-minute video, there's probably a delay. And it may or may not be as quality as the original source. I love finding guys that are super smart and have no following. Those are my favorite people. The guy with a million followers generally is a repackager, in my experience. So that's how I'm thinking about it now. But I mean, I just did it yesterday, but I like the implementation part and pulling insights out and then having it, well, you know what? I'll tie that into the in the operating system building, and then it can go in as a goal. Analyze this information, assess compared to what we're currently doing, and identify any opportunities and populate as a task within the board.
Because you could easily cross-reference the intel with, you know, X as well and say, you know, hey, you know, what's the latest on it? Is it truly accurate or not? And then you have that approval stage within your own workflow. But the biggest thing is that I've noticed, which is why I think everyone is talking about GSD workflows, Paperclip, is simply being able to articulate exactly what you want AI to do. When Bacon, you were talking about, hey, hand-holding it. I haven't not handheld an entire process that I've used AI for up to this point because I don't, it's gotten off the rails too many times. And if I want that output, and I know I'm going to be doing something, I'm going to spend 5 hours today building something that I know I'm going to save, you know, 3 hours every single week for the next year, right? Or however so long, then that's a positive ROI for me that I'm going to do. And you want that output there. And I see too many times everybody thinks OpenClaw or, you know, we don't define the atomic tasks in sequence to actually get the work done. We define the role that we want and assume that the next greatest, latest model can handle it. And so I don't even do it within one LLM. I actually do atomic tasks in sequence and choose the model based on my usage of certain models in different platforms that I think does the best output of that said thing. And I pass information back and forth between the models. So I basically have an ongoing run between everything from GPT, Cloud Code, even Gemini at this point, running different sequences of workflows based on that, because the models are going to change every few months. It's the actual workflow that you have to be really, really clear on, that, you know, whatever the harness that we choose moving forward, you know, will be kind of how we're defining the connection between the memory, the workflow steps that we have in sequence, and updating that, you know, with the latest and greatest, you know, recommendations, process steps, you know, how we should do certain things. But I see that breaking all the time, is that we go straight to, can a an agent do the thing for us without us actually hand-holding, walking through the defined steps in sequence and workflow, and then taking verbatim what we see. Rob, to your point of like scraping YouTube, is it the latest and greatest? Scraping X, is it the latest and greatest? And then giving AI to do it without us actually digesting it and truly understanding what is the validity of that information, and then how does it actually fit into the workflow that we've defined. And too many times we've skipped over defining our own workflows at that level, or at that granularity, that granular level, to then be able to let an agent go and apply a recommendation to our own workflow. So I think it's like it's fascinating that everybody doesn't want to seem to do the work of actually defining their workflow at a level where it makes it faster for them to iterate on it moving forward. Once we have a new model, once we have a new tool, once we have a new, quote unquote agent team that can do that. And I think that's where something like Paperclip to me is so enticing, because the handoff nature of it. I mean, they literally give that example on the homepage of Paperclip of being able to hand off between different subatomic tasks within agents within roles that you've defined. And knowing where, when AJ talks about, having a stopgap, basically like stage gating his own efficiency analysis within his own workflow to know like where does something break versus letting it run the whole thing and then trying to figure it out afterwards, right? I think that's the biggest thing. So I actually personally handhold all of my agent, task builds or sequence workflow, but I don't even call it agent builds anymore, but just sequence workflow builds, because I have recognized the hallucination stage of these models, depending on what you give it. And B, just getting to that output, the one that you want, over and over. You get it 10 times faster versus trying to jump ahead and let it run and give you something ahead of time, or on its own terms. So anyway, that's my spiel. But Rob, that's why I asked that question. Are you taking it and embedding the skim, the skip, the read, and digesting that against your own workflow? Because if we're not applying it to our own workflow, improving on that, then it's kind of, we can only hold so much in our brain. And to your point, we can only watch so many YouTube videos in the day before we're, we're wasting time more than we are actually, progressing. So
how do you work with it hand-holding wise if you don't already know the workflow? What do you do?
I use AI to help learn whatever that workflow is, because I think the biggest thing for AI for us is that it is the greatest learning. It's the greatest invention for human learning versus automation. And I think people don't understand that. Andrew, you know me, I'm like an SOP, I'm like a process nerd. Like if I don't write out the process, I don't even care.
I know a lot of process people, and Billy is exceptional in that. In the exceptional, he's exceptional inside the exceptional.
Like it freaks me out when I see like the first exercise that I do is just like, what is the process? If you don't know the process, I build what I know, and then I leave placeholders or gaps in which I think there might be process. And at the very least, then I use AI to go learn what those gaps are, or I go find people who know what those gaps are and then plug and play and test against that. But I think that's the biggest underutilization right now, is everybody wants AI to do the thing for them rather than helping them understand how to do the thing, and then being able to iterate properly on how to inject said thing you've learned into your own workflow to level yourself up or 10x yourself. That's my hot take.
Rob, with your system you were just talking about, could you also connect it into Google's Notebook LM to give it an extra layer of kind of reasoning? And obviously, you're talking about YouTubers. I mean, you see so many of them build a 10K website. They're all just reposting the same shit. You see one thing comes up popular over the next 3 days. There's 30 or 40 of them, and they're all grifters at the end of the day. None of them actually own web agencies or AI agencies. They're just selling a course, or selling a PDF. But with your system, could you get it to try and analyze and find the original poster, the first person who put that video out? Because whoever that is probably a proper technical person, knows what they're talking about, probably goes over most people's head, because there could be some kind of architect or something, or developer, but then the AI could probably really analyze that original video to give you good insights. Because I think other people who repost the same idea probably dumb it down, because in reality they don't truly actually understand it.
You could also expand that out. That's a great thought, Jake, because you've got not only who's the source of truth, but also if you look at other things like LinkedIn, everybody who's got a profile on LinkedIn, let's say, they might follow a certain number of people, like you may have a commonality among people with it that you're aligned with because they follow similar thought leaders, as an example. And so to kind of package those together, whether it is trying to find people that you can align with, whether it is customers who are buying your type of product that are listening to thought leaders in that space, it's that chain of authority that goes back to, who started it versus who owned it.
I guess, can I challenge that? Because Jake, why would you care who the original source is of that if I can aggregate all of the 10 latest YouTube videos of said topic together with Notebook LM and synthesize the information and have it applicable to my, business, right? Like, do I care if it's person A or if it's person E, right? Like in that mix, obviously, to Brian, to your point, right? It's a common, it's like almost like a, it's like, what do they call it? The LinkedIn pods, to a degree, of like the biggest creators or the biggest content people that are pulling, for the latest information or the latest findings in, let's say e-commerce, let's say Amazon, let's say, supply chain or something within Amazon, right? There's probably 5 to 10 people on LinkedIn that you that pops in your head, of like who you would go to try to get the latest information about that.
Well, I would say, Billy, it depends kind of if you're looking for like that executive summary, just to keep pulse of what's going on in a community or an industry, for instance. I think where Jake was going with this, I think, is if you can find whoever the original person was that the idea came from, they're probably in there tinkering. They're probably more like the nerd, the engineer that's in there tinkering and hacking things and trying to figure things out. And if you can listen to what they say as soon as they say it, they probably found something new that nobody else has discovered yet. So I think there's value for both sides of this.
Yeah, it's just speed of info, I guess, is that's the
Yeah, one is more like insider trading versus, hey, summarize this in a way that at a fifth grade level so I can understand it.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I was going to say sorry. So the way I was thinking of it is the guys who repost it are just skimming the surface. They don't actually understand what they're talking about, and they probably skip some steps. Whereas if you go back to the original guy, he could be an engineer who's sitting at Anthropic or OpenAI. He's actually working on the algorithm, has a much deeper understanding, and maybe there's things he talks about that they don't understand, so they skip that out of their video on YouTube because they just want clicks. They just want someone to come buy their $1,000 course, you know. But the original guy is probably boring as hell to listen to, but he's very, very smart. And the AI may watch his video and pick up on something he says, "Oh, do you know what? Actually, this is very interesting because this is very technical." And then that takes you down a whole new rabbit hole to a whole new level.
Jake, that reminds me, I've got a course that I can send you for $19.97.
It's about how to sell bridges.
It covers all this we just talked about here. No, I'm just messing with you. So, actually, Billy, I like Billy's idea a lot. If we're bubbling up unique information, as think of a Venn diagram, this is the circle of new information. Preferably, I like to be as close as I can to the source as opposed to repackaged. But I want to overlap. I think what Billy said, what I like a lot is I want to overlap what my goals are and what the knowledge and capabilities are, which is what OpenClaw does really well. I want to know where those two circles cross. And I want to know where from this information can apply to my goals of my existing business. Like, honestly, if Claude Code Vanilla works for you for planning, don't waste your time on superpowers and GSD. Skip it. That's it. You're done. Don't even bother. But if you struggle with the planning part, then maybe that deeper mode of interview mode will be helpful. And that's what I try to get Jarvis to do for me is like, hey, does this fucking matter? Like, does it matter at all to me? So, and I think I've talked about this maybe on our first call I joined with you guys, whatever. We live by the 3 W's. What do you know? What does it mean? What do you think we should do about it? And I make everybody send me messages like that, the 3 W's, and the same thing with Jarvis. What do you know? What does it mean? And what do you think we should do about it? Don't just drop off a monkey in my office and tell me this is the next greatest thing, and now I got to chase the monkey around the office. That doesn't help me at all. I need to know clearly and succinctly what that means. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But where does it overlap and find new information that can apply to your business or your goals? And that's where I feel like a lot of these multi-agent platforms, let's call it, struggle because it still misses that insight and that connection so that it has access to everything. But I feel like we're like weeks away from solving this problem, maybe days away. We're getting very, very close. Each iteration seems to be getting better and closer to what I dream of someday.
And I agree with what you're saying, Rob. I mean, I like your idea, Billy, there. And I think a system that, as you grow out your agent system to start doing more tasks, then the ability to cross-reference new information with your tasks and ask intelligent questions of that summarizer skill. You know, which of our current workflows can this be applied to? Or would it help us to improve? Or what of our strategy and our business objectives is relevant to this information? And I think also it's fine for YouTube, but where you're getting content you know is quality, whether it's from a conference or some paid event or something else, where you think the speakers are inherently high quality, processing those videos and running those against your business, your aims, your workflows, your strategies is also, I think, of great value. So it's a good idea.
That's the singularity, man. That's a singularity, right? The AIs are improving the AIs and they're creating the content and summarizing and improving the other AIs that have better workflows that then make the other stuff better, right?
Andrew, there's one other thing that I've noticed that I want to call out with Kristen, what you were just saying. We have so much content around, like any individual business owner, right? If you go and look at your knowledge base of your content, of your reports, of anything it knows about your business, there is way more than you actually need to be able to give these agents for actually building out your workflows. I mean, this is a whole operation of feng shui more than I've ever seen it, of being able to actually simplify what is the information you truly need to then be able to hand off to agents. I see us building Obsidian. I see so many other people building out these huge knowledge bases, and then they're expecting to just hand this giant knowledge base over to AI and let it know exactly what it needs to pull from for historical context for all of this. And, you know, even just listening to Boris Cherney talk about his entire process for cleaning out his heartbeat files or his CloudMD files, his memory files, like if it exceeds 5,000 tokens, he's wiping the thing clean and he's starting over, you know, for the latest iteration of it. And I kind of translate that to what I'm seeing of, we have so much context. We don't actually do a really good job of simplifying and only providing the necessary context for these AIs to pull from that relates. I'm talking specifically relating to workflow, to sequencing a workflow from the handing off departments, one department to another, handing off to these agents that we're building. The information one agent has that's going to hand off information to another agent, right? And then that second agent's going to pull, you know, whatever its memory. We have way too much information trying to synthesize all at once. And you know, AI can do it. Yes, AI is exceptionally great at synthesizing way more data than a human could in a short amount of time. But the problem is it's overwhelm. It's overload for these agents, and I don't think we take that into consideration as much either. And I think that's why we get to a point where these agents are hallucinating on its outputs more than it is actually helping us with very clean, structured, and efficient workflows. So
the signal to noise ratio is
way out of control.
I definitely love Rob's skim or skip methodology. I think that can be applied to just about everything.
Well, and I want to give a real world example, and this is meant with all due respect. This is not a knock at all on anybody here or anybody that went. Kevin King is one of the best curators I know. You guys went to an event last week. Kevin's a curator. How much of that content did Kevin come up with himself and generate himself? Right? Single digit percentages probably, right? He brought in people together and he's curating people who have curated information to then share with everybody else. And hopefully they've done a good job of discerning what is important. You know, what does this mean and what do you think you should do about it? That's the whole goal. It's curation. In my head, I think of a museum curator. I think of anybody that pulls in a lot of information and distills the actual key points to what should be applied into whatever course of business you want to use.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy a lot, especially since I was a speaker, Rob. So I'll take that as a compliment. So thank you. So a question on the skim or skip concept. Thanks, AJ. So you have a third one too. I'm assuming skim, skip, and actually watch too, right?
Yeah, there is a watch, but it doesn't come up very often. He's pretty hard. He's hardcore.
And
He's like,
how
no,
are
we already
you?
learned this. Or we already know this. It's already in our memory. So it depends on your memory of, where you're at. Also, how deep is the memory? And again, a lot of the guys I probably follow, like all of us, the algorithm is going to give you more myopic content because you're following Claude. I mean, if I go to my YouTube page right now, it's Claude Code. It's probably Claude Code, pickleball, and soccer. That's probably what it is. That's probably all that's on there. And then a few hot, attractive women smattered in there somewhere. But it just funnels you to where you want what you watch, right? That's the way it is. So the discernment, some people call it taste. I mean soccer, Jake. But the discernment, some people call it taste. The real value is the discernment, the ability for the person to go, oh, that makes sense. Like we're doing a lot of this on this call here. Oh, I like what he said or she said. And what if you apply it here? Or what if you add a little bit here? What if you do it a little bit here? That's where I think the real value comes in, not just the repackaging with some editing.
I love it. I guess a big thing there then is how do you make sure that filter process is good, right? So first of all, I guess you've curated the channels you care about, right? So that's your human in the loop. That's already you who did that. And then there's some sort of criteria that your bot is using to judge whether that information is worthy of being elevated, right?
Yeah.
So
Like all
I'm
the
a
social
massive
media.
fan. Who's made products in China? Raise your hand. Everybody here probably, right? Great. Who goes over to the Canton Fair with no plan in mind and says, "Oh, I hope I found a supplier"? That seems crazy to me. I reverse engineer who already makes those products that are similar and has the capabilities and ability to make it, and I start there. That's the way I always did it from day one, right? I would never just start randomly hitting up suppliers to find, oh, can you make patio lights? I'm going to the people that make patio lights and see if they can make what I want them to make for me. Just reverse engineer, beg, borrow, steal. The beauty of Twitter is you can actually just go and see who they follow. You find somebody that's smart, just use that breadcrumb strategy of saying, oh, I think this person's smart. Great. Who do they follow? Oh, Carpathy. Oh, we're at a good start. Who else? Dario. Okay, great. Who else do they follow? And then start building your list off of that. That's what I do all the time is just try to reverse engineer. So I call it an info diet. How do you consciously build your information diet so that the algorithm just doesn't give you what it wants to give you for clickbait? That's the mindset I have around it.
Love it. That's a good stuff, Rob. Well, guys, we are 15 minutes past the hour, and I like to keep these things inside of an hour just to keep them tight and fun and everything. So I will call it there. Thank you guys for joining, and thank you, Christian, Brian, Rob, Jake, AJ, and everyone else who kind of threw some insight in there. I know we all learned quite a bit. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's involvement. Thank you.
Thanks for organizing.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.